Hey, so this is Tim from Practical English, and in this video we're going to be talking about how you can prepare for the IELTS exam and about making a study plan to prepare for the IELTS exam. So if you stick around to the end of this video, we're going to talk about what you should be doing if you have 1 week till the IELTS exam, what you should be doing if you have 1 month to the IELTS exam, and what you should be doing if you have several months until the IELTS exam. So the first thing to understand about the IELTS exam is there's almost 2 sets of skills you really need for it. It's not just about learning English. So when we talk about preparing for the IELTS exam, we often talk about general English and we talk about IELTS specific preparation or IELTS English. And you need to have a good command of both of these things to really get a good score in the IELTS exam. For example, if your English generally is really good and you go to the IELTS and you take it, you might end up being quite disappointed with your score. This is something that happens all the time. And the reason for that is often, especially in writing and speaking, there are specific things the examiner's looking for. And especially in writing, they really want to see certain structures. In other areas like listening and reading, you also need to kind of get used to the question types and used to how the IELTS test is often set up. So there's things you need to pay attention to there as well. So that's someone who has really good general English and really bad IELTS English. Now, some people have really good IELTS English. They practice and practice and practice for the test, but they don't really work on their general English that much. And these students will also struggle because it's really hard to trick the examiners in this test. You really want to have a good general base of English, and you also want to have some very exam specific knowledge. You really want to swat up on the IELTS exam itself as well. And so in this video, let's talk about 4 different ways you can use to practice both of those things. The first way of studying we're going to look at today is consuming as much English content as possible. And sometimes students don't believe me when I say this one to them because it seems actually like kind of easy. Can learning something be easy? And the answer to that is yes, learning can be easy and learning can be enjoyable. And actually often if you're enjoying something, it's easier to learn from it. When I say consume English content, I really want to think about what do you usually do in your first language. So when I lived in Korea, I liked to watch a lot of TV and I was also studying Korean. So what I did was I started watching a lot of Korean dramas. I used subtitles, okay, because my Korean wasn't that good yet. And I picked up so much language from that, and it wasn't a big change for me because I was going to watch TV in the evening after work anyway. And I've had students find all sorts of creative ways to kind of increase their English diet, you can call it. So I've had students who love computer games, and instead of playing computer games in their own language, they play computer games in English, especially computer games where you have a lot of talking, or maybe you're talking to other people online to cooperate. And for them, they were really shocked by how much it improved their English. And for them, it also didn't really feel like an extra effort because, oh, if I'm going to play computer games for 4 hours a week and I do it in Chinese or I do it in English, it doesn't make much difference to me. It's the same amount of time I'm spending doing something. So whatever it is you enjoy, if you have a hobby, go and meet people when it's safe to meet people. Go and meet people around that hobby who are speaking in English, or join some forums online that are in English. If you like books, read books in English. Play board games in English. Any of these things can make a huge difference to how many words you pick up because you will just hear words and remember them. You also pick up little bits of grammar. It will improve your pronunciation. It makes a huge difference to you. So definitely do think about what you can do in English instead of in your first language that won't take you any more time and will really help you improve for the IELTS exam. The second thing I want to tell you about is looking at sample writing answers and sample speaking answers in the IELTS exam. And what I would say about this is many students say, oh, well, a band 9 is the highest thing I can get in the IELTS exam, so I'm going to go and read a lot of band 9 essays. However, if your goal is to get a band 7 and you're currently at a band 5, I would actually recommend don't read any Band 9 essays. I would actually read a lot of Band 5 essays, Band 6 essays, and Band 7 essays. And when I'm reading them, I would really start to look and think, well, what is bad about this Band 5 essay that needs to improve? What is okay about this Band 6 essay? And what takes it up to a 7? Because if you understand the difference between a 5 and a 7, it's really going to be helpful for you if you're trying to get from a 5 to a 7. If you read a bunch of Band 9 essays, you might understand the difference between an 8 and a 9, but it's not relevant for you. And similarly, you can go and find some Band 5 speaking samples, Band 6 speaking samples, and Band 7, and try and really pay attention to them and spot the differences between them and see what you can find there and see what you can learn from it. It'll be good listening practice, but it will also really help you understand the exam and what makes a good exam taker different from an okay exam taker. The third thing you can do to practice for the IELTS is to get some feedback. And this is really important for IELTS English and also for general English. When you go into the IELTS exam, there are going to be some things that you might think are the right way to answer a question. And actually, it's very easy to kind of convince yourself of this. Maybe someone told you something one time. There's a lot of bad advice out there. And we made a video about bad advice and scams in the IELTS. If you want to check that out, you can find the link. But there's a lot of bad advice. Maybe you hear something one time and you think, oh, that sounds sensible, and you just keep doing it. And I would say it's actually really important to get some feedback on what you're doing for the IELTS, especially for writing structure, but also for your speaking. And it's also very important to get some general feedback, maybe about the vocabulary you're using when you speak, and about some of the grammar you're using when you speak. You can get feedback on your listening and your reading as well. You can go through listening and reading with a teacher, and they'll be able to help you out and see how you're approaching the questions, and is it always the right way to approach the questions? Are there any vocabulary gaps that you have that you can fill to help you get a better score in those areas? With grammar and vocab, it's very easy to remember something that's not right, and if you do it over and over and over again and you never get feedback, you will continue to make that mistake over and over and over again. And it will kind of become ingrained in your head, and even if you find out later it's wrong, you might keep saying it the way you originally learned it because you've just done it like that for such a long time. So getting feedback early and getting feedback often can make a huge difference to you. Now, if you do want to get some feedback, you can check out a link in the description and you can go and get some writing feedback for free on our Facebook page. The final way to study for the IELTS exam is to really look at the grading criteria. We've done a lot of videos on this, and I'll put a link to a playlist of them up here. And the reason this is important is if you don't understand what your goal is or what your goal should be in the exam, it's really difficult to show off those skills. So for listening and reading, there's some specific question types you want to get a good understanding of. For speaking, you want to make sure you understand how to approach the different questions. And for writing, I think it's maybe the hardest one, because for IELTS writing, there is basically just one way they want you to write the essays, and you can't just kind of start writing everything you think. You have to be very structured, and if you don't know how to do that, you're going to have a hard time. They're also going to be looking for things like paraphrasing, in speaking, they'll be looking for discourse markers or coherence and cohesion. If you don't know about them or what those things are, you're going to have a really hard time showing off to the examiner all of those skills. So do check out some of the practical English resources we have where we go through all of these things, and we will be able to, and by studying those, you'll really be able to go in there with a strong goal and be able to work towards reaching that goal. So at the start of this video, I said I'm going to talk about what should you do if you have 1 week, 1 month, and several months. And so we'll start with 1 week. If you have 1 week till the IELTS exam, I think it's difficult to make a significant difference to your grammar and your vocabulary. You can't grow your vocabulary much in a week. However, some of these things that we've spoken about to do with structure, you can learn. So if you have a week left, I would actually really just focus on the IELTS writing and on the IELTS writing structure, and maybe do some practice tests for the other areas. But yeah, really focus on writing and writing structure, because that's something you can maybe get a good handle on in a week, and it's going to kind of maximize your score without much time. Now, if you have a bit longer, if you have a month, I would say this is maybe a good time to, yes, focus on structure, but also just try and improve your English level a little bit. And here's where I'd also recommend getting regular feedback. If you have a week getting feedback, there might not be enough time to put it into place, but get feedback on your writing, get feedback on your speaking from a teacher. It can be us, but there's lots of teachers out there who are very good. Find a good teacher who knows what they're talking about and get some feedback and make some improvements there. Think about some of your biggest grammar mistakes and some of your biggest vocabulary mistakes, maybe biggest pronunciation mistakes as well, and really focus on those areas. Now, if you have several months, you don't have to start thinking about the IELTS too early. Think about just studying English a bit more broadly. Think about improving your English diet, maybe reading more, or watching more TV in English, playing games in English, whatever you want to do. You've got the time, and it's kind of the luxury of time, to spend a bit more time on just general English and improving that. And then closer to the exam date, maybe focus a bit more on IELTS specific skills. But for people with a lot of time, I always recommend don't just study IELTS early on, because you actually need to have both those skills, like we said at the start of this video. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can always leave a comment down below. And in the description to this video, I'll leave a bunch of resources that you can use to help improve your IELTS score in all of the ways that we have said already. Now, if you are really serious about improving your IELTS score, I'd also say go over to our website and see what we have on offer there. So we have some free stuff, and we also have some paid services for people who are more serious about it. Whatever level you're at, whatever you can afford, you'll find something over there that's really going to help make a difference. And yeah, keep in touch. Let me know if you have any questions, and check out some of those resources. See you soon.